my name is Abby, and I was homeschooled my entire life until my freshman year of high school. And I spent 4 years at a private high school, and I just kind of want to talk a bit about the pros and cons of choosing a public/private high school. I know that public school is not the same, but generally, it's different than homeschool, so I wanted to kind of talk about that. I remember when I was in 8th grade, after deciding to go to public school or private school, I looked on Reddit all the time for forums talking about what switching from homeschool to high school is like, and I really had no idea what to expect. My cousins, I'm pretty close with my cousins, and they have always been public school. So I kind of had tidbits of their experiences, and I've been friends with public school kids before, but I didn't know what it was like. I had a shadow day at a private school in middle school, and I ended up not enjoying it. So, because I was initially going to go to private school for middle school, I didn't like it, I didn't go. But once I got to the point in high school, I struggled a lot with my mental health and just depression and feeling isolated. So my parents decided together that I would go to a private school for my freshman year. And there's a lot of really good things that have come out of it for me. I feel like my world has become so much larger, and I know so many more people, and that's really cool, because when you're homeschooled, I think a lot of people get the impression that you don't have friends at all, or you don't see people, which is not true. I had church, I had activities I go to, I had gymnastics, stuff like that. So I spent time outside of my house with other people. Like, I was socializing every day. But if you're not purposeful about doing those activities outside of homeschool, and you're not going to at least like co-ops or something like that, you really have no way to talk to people outside of your family or friends you've had since you were a kid, and it gets really isolating, it gets really depressing. So that is definitely a pro of going to high school. One of the pros of attending a private high school is you have so many more friend options. So one issue I had when I was in middle school, when I started going to a co-op thing once a week, was I only had like 5 friend options, and 2 girls to be friends with and 3 boys. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think it took a lot of time for me to recognize that I wasn't necessarily the problem. I just had limited options, and a lot of the options I had were not people that meshed well with my personality. So when you start going to a school, my school has a couple hundred kids, the private school I attended. You have so many more friend options. I flipped around from friends to friends freshman through senior year, but the nice thing was I had the choice, right? I wasn't stuck with the same 5 people. If friends weren't clicking for me, I could just move to a different group or to a different friend. And that was really nice for me. So I had options, which I really liked about private school. Although it can be hard because there were so many people, and when I went to my school, I did not know a single person. I went in all by myself without knowing a single person going to my school. So that's terrifying. And I think I'm a pretty introverted person. So going in with these hundreds of people, I didn't know anybody. A lot of these people at least knew each other from middle school or elementary school, right? Just at least recognized faces. I didn't recognize anybody. And that's so scary because, and that's, I think, what most other homeschoolers would face too if they go into a public or a private school. Another pro of going to a private high school for me was I learned time management. So when I was homeschooled, generally in middle school at least, my mom was very good about structuring our schooling, but once I reached middle school, More of it was up to me, and as long as I got the work done, I could kind of spend the rest of my day how I wanted. So it would usually, like frequently, I would get up at 1 p.m. and I would do school 3-4 hours and stay up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I know now, and I've been doing that during the summer too, which isn't good, but I know now that that definitely contributed to me feeling depressed a lot of the time, because it's not healthy for you to stay up that late every night and to sleep in, especially since I wasn't really talking to a lot of people by the time I was in middle school, so that was hard. My time management skills were not great, obviously, but I had such a little amount of school and such a large amount of free time that it kind of feels like, well, one, it kind of feels like you don't really have a purpose, like, for your life or for your year, for your day. Like, I would just kind of get school done and go through the day, and then I would watch YouTube or play video games, sleep, eat. I didn't really do much. At that early middle school, I didn't really exercise much either, so I was just bed rotting all day, which is not good. One thing that high school definitely taught me was time management. I finally, I had a time I had to get up every morning, I had to be ready, out the door, had to be on time. Again, that's great for college or for a job or something like that, because a lot of homeschoolers have never experienced that. I mean, there are definitely some homeschoolers I knew or know that even in high school, they were very structured, they get up at a certain time every morning, get dressed, eat breakfast, do their work. I was not like that. And it's not anybody to blame except myself. I mean, I was old enough at that point to know that it wasn't good for me, but the school I went to, I had lots and lots of homework. And I'm pretty methodical and slow generally, so I would be bringing homework home every single day. And time management is important with that. I mean, my freshman year, I was very bad with procrastinating. I would have 3 hours of homework, right? And I would get home and relax for 3 hours and exercise for an hour, and then I do my school. Well, you can't stay up till 1 in the morning when you gotta get up at 6:30. That doesn't work. So, I mean, I would say it took me 2 years to finally get into the rhythm of okay, I can't procrastinate, I just have to do my homework. It's definitely a pro, but in the beginning it will be a con, because you are not going to be used to that schedule. You're not going to be used to getting up early. Well, some of you are going to be used to getting up early every morning, and then the worst thing is the homework, because it's you get home after a freaking 9 to 5, it feels like, and you still have more work to do. So when you are in at least private school, it is a full-time job. I mean, this is your life. So if you're not used to doing a lot of school, that's going to be a really hard transition. So good luck. I mean, you'll be able to do it. Like I said, I did it. I didn't think I could, but that's something you need to prepare for. So I have a couple more pros written down, but I'm already yapping a lot, so let's move on to the cons. A big con for me, and now, if you are more extroverted or just loud in general and can handle a lot of people, even if you are homeschooled, you'll probably be fine in this aspect. I really struggled, especially my freshman year, with loneliness. I was smart enough to recognize that I didn't fit in, right? I was smart enough to recognize that I'm not like a lot of these people, not in a I'm not like other girls way, but I was different because I had grown up in a completely different environment than a lot of these kids had. So that was, recognizing that was hard, because it's not I think a lot of people think, and some homeschoolers are, but I think a lot of people assume that homeschoolers are oblivious to things like this, and that's why people would make fun of them, is because they're oblivious to the fact that they're different. They don't understand the social norms of high school. I have had a couple of friends who were homeschooled who were kind of oblivious at first to that people were making fun of them, and it broke my heart, because we were in the same boat, right? We were both lonely, except I recognized that I was, and I recognized that I was an outcast, but other people don't necessarily recognize that they are. And that's even worse for me, because then people make fun of them, people treat them different because they act like they're homeschooled, if that makes sense. I at least could recognize I was very quiet freshman and sophomore year. If I didn't speak, people couldn't notice that I was any different than they were. And that's definitely, although I would say that helped me in some ways freshman year, as in people didn't necessarily right off the bat see me as like weird or different, because most people didn't know I was homeschooled because I didn't talk. It was heartbreaking because that's not my personality. So like every day when I got home from school, I had all this pent up energy and all these things that I would tell my mom, my parents, my brother. I was like, because I haven't talked all day. It's like I felt I was shut down every single day for a year because I recognized that I wasn't the same as other people, and I felt like I didn't deserve to be seen, even though I did. So yeah, it was actually thanks to a friend I had at the time that I met this other girl and I joined the cross country team. I never thought a day in my life I would, but somebody opened that option up for me, even though initially I told myself, I was like, I'll never do a sport, I'll never do this. It's too much socializing, too much this or that. If it wasn't for that friend who helped me freshman year and took me under her wing, I wouldn't have met all of these new people. So if somebody genuinely invites you to do something, or they invite you to sit with them at lunch or something like that, don't take it as an insult. I mean, obviously, if somebody is, and they're the type of person that's popular, they make fun of people, you might want to avoid that. But generally, if people are inviting you to stuff, they are being nice, and it's not in a pity way. They think you're cool. I always thought freshman year and sophomore year that people would invite me to stuff because it was out of pity or because they would see I was lonely. No, people genuinely liked me, and I couldn't see that because I was so insecure. The right people, the people you want in your life, will be attracted to your energy and the fact that you are a little different, but in a cool way, right? So if people invite you to stuff, please don't automatically think it's out of pity. People like you. Like, be a kind person, be yourself. Try to scan for social norms, not to completely blend in, but to at least avoid getting picked on or made fun of or put in a box, because you don't want that. And the more friends you make and the more comfortable you get in the environment, then you can completely be yourself and people won't judge you because you already have your place in the school, if that makes sense. People get scared when they see someone who's genuine and who is comfortable in their own skin. So just recognize that. If you're a more introverted person, I'd say lay back a little bit, kind of observe what's happening and make friends with the right people. That's what I did. Even though it takes longer that way, I have some of the best friends I've ever had in my entire life because of it, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. So yeah. Another con I would say is like I talked about before, when I was in middle school, I had 5-6 hours a day I just draw because that is what I absolutely love to do. And first semester freshman year, I didn't take any art classes. And I was still adjusting to this new environment and all this new workload that I never did my art. I never did art, even though that was the thing that gave me life. Like I wouldn't trade art for anything, but for a while, I genuinely didn't have the time or energy to do any art. So for a little bit, you might feel like you lose pieces of yourself, and that's really sad. If you have a hobby that takes a large amount of your day, or that you love to do, you spend hours doing every day, you will not have nearly as much time to do your hobbies. Or, I mean, if it's a sport, it's a little different because you can become a part of that sport at your school, depending on what it is. But if it's something creative like art or writing or computer stuff, you really might not have a lot of time, and that's sad, but it's the reality, at least for the first couple of years. And if you're taking AP honors classes, stuff like that, it's hard. So don't expect that you're going to be able to do the same amount of work or practice on the things that you love to do, because you probably won't. The last thing is, I feel like when I was homeschooled, I feel like I struggled a lot with loneliness and depression, but once I switched to high school, it switched the depression to just constant stress. My anxiety got so bad. I didn't start taking anxiety meds until this year, or senior year. I've graduated now, but senior year I started taking anxiety meds because the stress, it builds up over the years, right? So freshman year, I was so stressed. Sophomore year, especially the social stress of it all. The stress was definitely worse then, but the stress builds up and your body remembers that stress, right? So you might be hanging at a 5 or a 6 stress level, generally speaking, and you don't even realize it. and then it takes one thing to push you to an 8 or a 9, and you are panicking. You're having a panic attack, and you don't know what's happening. You're like, I've never had this before. That's what happened to me in senior year in some of my classes. I started feeling like I couldn't breathe. I started having like panic episodes. I don't think it was necessarily a panic attack, but it was kind of like an out-of-body experience. I'd start sweating profusely and like couldn't breathe when I was trying to do presentations, when, you know, I thought I had gotten over that fear years prior. But again, it's just the stress built up over years, over high school years. So if you are predisposed to stress, keep that in mind, especially if you're taking really hard classes. And that is where I would say, do not take 4 APs. You don't need to. Do not take on more stress than you think you can handle. If you're used to a heavy workload or long days, like doing schoolwork at home, go for it. You know, do as much as you want. But please, like, your mental health is so much more important than even GPA. It really is. If you are, you know, you got a 4.0 at the end of high school, but you're having panic attacks every day, was it worth it? Probably not. So, you know, challenge yourself, but remember your limits and remember that rest is important. Currently, I'm saving money for college, and it's a new level of stress, but at the same time, I feel so free after being out of school, because it's like, in a way, it's back to homeschool, where right now, you know, it's the summer. I don't have the stress of homework or stuff like that. And the nice thing is I have friends from school that I still talk to, and that's awesome. But now I have the aspect of I can just be myself, and it is like nobody can judge me because I'm no longer in that environment, and it really is just at a level of peace I don't think I've felt in a long time. So please, if nothing else, when going through high school, just remember who you are, and remember that you have value, and that you don't need to force yourself to be less or to be more for anybody. Yeah. I think, you know, it's the same thing. This is kind of random, but it's the same thing I've heard from like people saying they would dress like emo, or they dress like super girly a certain way when they were younger, and then they go through middle school and high school and feel like they had to change to be the norm. And then once they get past high school, or they hit college, or they hit their 30s, they like start becoming that kid version of themselves again. And I feel that a little bit, not when it comes to style, but with my personality and my interest. It's like, I feel like the spark for my love of art is kind of coming back, and I feel like I can fully be myself, finally, for the first time in a long time, and I don't have to care what other people, even when I'm in public now, I don't have to care what people think. If you're planning on starting high school, just remember it will be a struggle, and you might feel like you're not completely yourself, and that's normal. As much as it sucks, it's normal. But if you're getting near the end of high school, just look forward to that, when you can finally feel fully you again. And if you're making friends with people who tell you you have to change yourself, then they don't deserve you, and you need to move on. It's better to be alone and to be you than to be with a group of people and you're not even the same person. I don't want to say just be yourself, but just embrace who you are, and recognize that if you spend enough time showing your true personality and who you are, the right people will be friends with you, because they will be attracted to the fact that you are different and that you don't give a crap about what other people think. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this was helpful to somebody, if somebody who's homeschooled found this video. If you're considering public or private school, I hope this was helpful for you. I would have really liked to have a video like this when I was going into high school, so good luck, and you're gonna do awesome. If you guys have any like questions about my experiences or anything, feel free to ask. I don't really know how many views this video is gonna get, but if it's one person who this helped, then that's great. So if you need any advice or anything, just let me know. Maybe I'll respond, or I'll make a new video kind of talking about other experiences. So yeah, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Jesus loves you.